back. Hi, it's Todd from Todd's Workshop and Todd Cutler here, and we're back with part 3 of the leather shield covering. We are going to shoot the heck out of this today, and we are going to find out what it does. Is it going to make this shield impenetrable or not? I don't know. I have 2 crossbows here. This is the original lockdown longbow, the longbow simulator that shoots the same speed as Joe Gibbs's 160-pound bow. This one here shoots the same speed as one of Joe Gibbs's 130-pound bows. Now the thing is, you might say, well, how do we know that's a modern crossbow? Have a look at this film of Joe and this shooting side by side. I'm also going to show you some bits out of some films where I was shooting this shield here. Now this is, again, a 14th, 15th century heater shield. It's constructed in the way that it was done then. But the interesting thing about it is I shot the heck out of it. I have something like 40, maybe even 50 holes in this thing. You might think that that shield is rubbish, but the thing is, it has to be light enough for you to be able to move it around. You have to be able to fight with it. And if you make it impenetrable, you know, ½ inch of tank armour, you can't lift the thing up, you can't fight with it, it's no good. You have to find that balance. And it seems, from the shields that are in museums, that that balance is arrows do stick out the back. Now the thing is, I don't know for a fact, but in some of my tests, I discovered that if you grease or wax the arrow shafts, they penetrate through fabric armour particularly, and shields better. So I did another soberly, properly titled film, Do Greased Shafts Penetrate Better? Yes, they do. And so, in fact, these arrow shafts on this shield were coming through around about 20 centimetres, if I remember rightly. That's a long way, 8 inches through the back. You might want to stop that. During the course of those films, somebody posted up a recipe from the Ashmolean Museum, which was for a doublet of leather to protect your, well, shield. And it says that it is so good that no edged weapon will penetrate through it. Now, an arrow is not typically an edged weapon, but for this first film now, we're going to have a quick look at arrows. And then we'll come back and we'll hit it with, I don't know, axes, swords and whatever. But today is arrows, so there will be a part 4, I guess. Now, this top part here in the red is covered with a layer of half-tan, then iron filings and glass, it did say glass, not sand, glued between the sheets, and then another sheet of half-tan leather over the top. And then the rest of it is done in exactly the same way as the other shield. So canvas, gesso. This section here is 2 layers of half-tan leather, again with the glue, but no iron filings, no glass. And this is just the shield as it is. So we have 3 different varieties here, red, orange, yellow. And we are going to see what happens with both bow types. The last thing to mention is the weight of them. So this one here, I've adjusted it to pretending that that is completely covered, is coming through at 5.2 kilos or 11.5 pounds. That is a chunky shield. This one here, coming through, the original one, made in exactly the same way, except for the leather on the front, 5.1 pounds, 2.3 kilos. Less than half the weight. This had better offer some phenomenally good protection. These are all ungreased, unwaxed, a little bit dirty, 130-pound simulator. Well, that's in. Right, let's just keep going and we'll see what we got at the end. Oh. Nice. Right. Let's see what we got. Well, this is the front side, in a way the least interesting. But you can see the socket of every single arrow on there, except this one. These ones here in the red section at the top is an M2, very fast, lower momentum, and a Type 16 also. Those are the 2 fastest arrow types, actually, because of the weight. But equally, they have not really penetrated a dangerous amount. Even if that were on the forearm, the padding, armour, Under Armour, mail, whatever, that would have kept you safe. This one, Type 7 needle bodkin, getting a bit interesting there. And again, but they're clearly coming through more. Although we've got another, this one here, this is another M2, same as this one, and it's penetrated about the same. So, don't know, this is the thing, we're going to have to run loads of tests. Type 9, Definitely getting a bit more interesting there at the bottom. Well, that was interesting, but not very scientific, because stupidly, I didn't think until afterwards, really. I've got to go for area by area. So let's try and do reds, oranges, yellows. Too many shots, I'm not going to have the time, but let's see where we go. Oh, yuck. Well, that's one of our yellows. Right, let's see what we got. Okay, well, so that's come through at the bottom here. Well, I suppose what we'd expect, you know, maybe about 8 centimetres, something like that. This one, type 7 again, needle bodkin. So really good penetration on it. Spiky. Now, those of you who are not familiar with my shield films will look at that immediately and go, oh my goodness, oh, that's dreadful, oh, it's poking into his arm, whatever. Well, you know what? Shields are not proof against everything. They're just not. Has it helped? Yeah. Look at them. Look, in comparison to previous films I've done with this kind of weight shield, that really is helping a lot. This time we're going to go for the orange area. Fingers crossed. It's a narrow band though. Nice. Well, it is immediately apparent that we have got an M2 here that isn't even through the arm pad, and an M2 here in the yellow, so that bit which has got no leather on it at all, and that's going through. So the leather, the half-tan leather and the glue is definitely doing something, no doubt about that. Hi, I've just interrupted the film for another Todd Cutler related interesting fact, and today we have got a Scottish dirk. Now look at the pommel on that. You've got love hearts, you're not just a feminine thing, and you've got a castle nut. What's all that about? I really don't know. But anyway, this and loads of similar pieces available on toddcutler.com. Back to the film. Perfect. There. Right. That one worked. So all the strikes were on the orange section, which is the 2 layers of leather only, no glass, no iron filings in between. That last one on the yellow, that's just the wood. So that's doing about what we would expect it to do, what's happened previously. This one, a little bit deeper than perhaps the others, but it is absolutely touching the arrow next to it. It's literally 2 holes forming into one. That might have had something to do with it. But these ones here, which are squarely on the orange section, they're not deeply coming through. It is clearly the 2 layers of leather and glue are doing something. However, what we also have to concede here is I haven't necessarily got it right. That recipe is so thin on detail that it's just a rough description. I might be entirely wrong on the glues, the leather thicknesses, the materials, the grain size of the glass, who knows? But for those of you who think that getting arrows out of a shield is easy, check this out. So it's type 9. Well, let's go for that one, whatever that is. So all of these I'll resharpen again before they go, because obviously it wouldn't be fair if not. Oh, we've actually lost a head there. So I'll have to come and excavate that. So anyway, can you pull them out and shoot them back? No, you can't. So that was the £130 longbow simulator. We're going to have a look at the £160 longbow simulator next. So that's basically the top end of what we think they could have been shooting on the field. And that's what Joe can shoot fairly easily, regularly. But before we do that, I'd like to say, please subscribe to the channel, sign up to the bell notifications, the newsletter on the websites, visit the websites. It all helps keep us going. But also in the last film we had a little sideline, and it was about this. It was about blackened Gambeson. Now have a look at this thing. This is the little sample that I did, which is now dried out. Now, just so you know, it's canvas of course, so it resisted the water, the glue, so I had to slit the back to allow the glue to enter. Anyway, I hadn't thought of that. So what we've got here is a bit which is not particularly impregnated, so it's quite soft. And then this bit is relatively hard, not quite as hard as I thought. So we're going to shoot this and we'll have a look at what the results are. But, and here's the but, I suspect actually I've gone completely down a blind alley on this, because this sort of fabric glue usage for making things like moulded quivers and things would have been enormously useful to the medieval people. It just would have been a really handy thing for them to have had. If it was handy, they would have used it if they had it. And I haven't seen any evidence for this sort of manufacturing technique. So actually, I'm going to row back on what I said completely, and I'm going to say, I think they probably didn't do this. But seeing as we've got the sample, let's give it a go. So for this test, I'm just going to use these two needle bodkins, type 7s. Oh. Cool. They do go in. Well, there you are. 23 and 16. 21 and 15. And the last two were 20 and 19, and they were all in the glued area. I'm not going to tell you the result of those first two because this is fantastically interesting. Let's keep going. That'll do it. Well, here you are. We definitely have some results from that experiment. So, and this is why it was interesting. Look at those numbers there. Glued, unglued. The little number just on the right-hand side, 19 and 12. So what does that say? Well, categorically, if you follow Todd's idea for a blackened Gambeson, it'll cost you more, it'll weigh more, it's harder to make, and you're more likely to die because the arrows go through further. I don't think whatever a blackened Gambeson was, it was this. So, well, learned something, I suppose. However, since putting this up, there's a load of comments. I love the comments on the films. A load of comments, and it's talking about a document which I haven't read called The King's Mirror, and it's a Scandinavian, I don't know, Norwegian, I think, and I think 13th century, but go check it out, The King's Mirror, and it says about blackened Gambesons in there, and it talks about pitch. And there's another reference, I think it might be German, 14th or 15th century, again it also talks about pitch. So whatever a blackened Gambeson is, it probably is something to do with pitch, it seems, and nothing to do with this at all. So there you are, I'm wrong. Whatever, I've learned something. Let's go shoot a shield again. Sorry, I'm back. I just have to show you this. I'm trying to get the arrows out of the Gambeson, right? This is the sort of stuff I love showing you because you just don't think about it. Look at this. It's just, there we go. You wouldn't want to get poked with these things. That one's easier, but still, hard work. So just going to pump out all the arrows at the red area at the top of the shield off the 160-pound simulator. Ooh. So here you can see all these strikes onto the red area here, and they are poking through the back. But it is definitely helping. This coating, this shield coating, is definitely helping. Is it going to hurt you? Well, actually, when you've got the armour on, it probably isn't, in honesty. So that has done its job. Right, we're now going to hit the orange and the yellow areas. So where there is no iron filings and glass, but there is still the leather, and where it is just a regular shield, what you'd expect it to be. We're going to go again now. Lost an M2 on that one, but we'll carry on without. Don't suppose it matters. Orange area, no glass and iron filings, still got the leather. That was the needle bodkin, another needle. Okay, that'll do. I think I've got 4 on. So we've got 4 good strikes on the orange here, which is just the 2 layers of half-tan leather and glue. Has it made any difference? Well, you know, emotionally I want to say yes, it has. Visually, if it has, it's pretty marginal. Right, let's go again, see how we go. We're going to go for the yellow now, which is the regular shield without any hardened leather on it. I've taken the scope off as well. I hate them. That'll do it. Let's see what we got. Okay, so all these strikes are on the yellow area. So that is the plain, ordinary shield with no leather protection on it. And clearly they've come through much, much further. Time to conclude. So we have a two-part conclusion. First part, easy. Blackened Gambeson, Todd Styley. If you do it, you're an idiot. Second part, this half-tan leather covering with the glass and the iron in it. The difference between glass and iron, no glass and iron, but still with the half-tan, pretty marginal at best. Does it do any harm? No. Does it improve things? Possibly. Did it add sort of like loads of friction to it, which is the only method that I could think of that it would work? Well, not visibly, because it didn't really mark the arrowheads in any way. It didn't sort of like have great big gouges or drags on them. So I don't think that powder is actually doing anything at all. The difference between this and this is very, very clear. Very clear. This will give you a lot more protection. But the question is, do you want it? And, you know, that's a stupid thing on the surface, but actually the truth is, it is much, much heavier. It's more than twice the weight of a regular shield at the time. So the thing is, does it give you the benefits of that? Well, mostly I'd say it doesn't. It really wouldn't. Because a shield, yes, they're coming through the back, but it's got to do other things. It's not just stopping arrows or axes or whatever it might be. It also has to work with you. It has to be able to be moved and moved around, like all armour, right? So this is a massive disadvantage, this extra weight. But there are days when knights choose to wear more armour or less armour, depending on what they're facing and what they're doing. Maybe this is like a heavy shield day, you know? But actually, I think the utility would be given just as well with a thin coating of steel, and the same weight or lighter, I suspect. So that comes down to the question, is it worth doing? Well, in my mind, generally, probably not. Did they do it? Well, the thing is, progress is all about coming up with ideas, trying them, testing them, seeing what's happened. Some guy wrote an idea down on a bit of paper. We happen to find it. It doesn't mean that it ever happened. Maybe it did, but it doesn't mean that it did just because we have a recipe for it. So I think that this is probably, most likely, just the doodling of some guy's mind. And it was a great idea, but actually, ultimately, a bit of a dead end. That is my gut feeling. However, what we have to admit, again, is that my interpretation of the recipe, with its massive lack of detail, is just my interpretation. I could be entirely wrong. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's film. Don't forget to sign up. Don't forget to put your bell notifications on. Come down to the websites. Anyway, we'll see you again, because don't forget, part 4 of this shield is we're going to look at the original wording, which was, no edged tool will get through. Well, you know what? I've got quite a lot of edge tools. See you again.